Hello wrestling fans, this is Tom Colohue once again on the Tom Colohue channel, and I'm going to be doing a review of last night's Friday Night SmackDown. This will of course cover the match between Drew Gulak and AJ Styles, it will cover Jeff Hardy and Sheamus, and of course the big news between Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, Sasha Banks and Bayley. Let's jump right in and let's hope there aren't as many recaps as there were on Raw. For anyone watching this, please do drop a like on the video if you do like these reviews. My record so far is 27, and with the amount of people who've been watching recently, I do hope one day I'll be able to break that. We started SmackDown this week without the big video that usually starts it. No Kofi Kingston walking through the screen, no Roman Reigns punching the ground. Instead, we went straight into fans chanting, cheering and clapping. I will note that to the sides of the main screen, there were the two screens highlighting the greatest match ever for Backlash. They are really building this show as if it's a one-match card, and I've got to say, there's actually quite a strong card outside of that. SmackDown ran down the card at the top of the show. There were a number of segments announced, but the only actual match announced was the Women's Tag Team title match. Maybe if they'd announced a few matches ahead of time, they would have done slightly better because the ratings for this show did drop below 2 million. You will note that they were aware that this was likely because there were several times where they tried to keep hold of people in several small ways. I'll highlight those as we go along. Jeff Hardy is shown bumping elbows with people backstage before we move to a recap of the angle that opened the show last week. He then comes down to the ring and talks about the fact that he wasn't drunk past every breathalyzer test necessary, and the eyewitnesses said it was someone with red hair and a red beard who potentially set him up. Sheamus does interrupt at this point and does not take credit for anything, but does call Jeff Hardy a junkie as per usual. A fight breaks out. Sheamus wins with a bro kick and by throwing Jeff into some of the Perspex screening, and stands tall at the end. Jeff Hardy's promo style is an interesting one. He has lots of pauses and breaks, and for someone who's so naturally high-flying and exuberant, it seems curious that he seems to get gassed cutting a promo, or in fact maybe he's just selling the words. If they had the normal crowd, I'm confident Jeff Hardy would have got what chance. Thankfully they did not, and he was able to spend his time and express himself. Michael Cole and Corey Graves before the segment confirmed that Elias is out with an injury, at least in kayfabe, or potentially maybe either his injury was re-aggravated or he is another one who has decided not to come to work for the foreseeable future. Before the break, Otis steals Baron Corbin's crown, and this is one of the many little things that I'm talking about, that before break they are trying to hook people in. A theft of a crown, unusual, not exactly from the Russo playbook, where they used to just show people walking to the ring with the music in the background that I always enjoyed back in the Attitude Era, but it's certainly something to try and hook people in. As we come back, Corbin wonders where his crown is and throws a chair about before we get a recap of the pool segment from last week, which was definitely not filmed at Zack Ryder's pool, and I would love to know where they found another pool in Florida. Corbin, I think, is the right man to feud with Otis right now. Otis is someone who ultimately does need some elevation if he is to actually stand a chance, or a believable chance, of cashing in that briefcase. Typically at this point you'll get a losing streak from the Money in the Bank, and I do think Otis will be losing a few matches. However, he's not already at the point high enough that that won't do undue harm. So, someone like Baron Corbin, who has been a top heel on SmackDown for a while and very recently was feuding with Roman Reigns even as far back as January, February, he has that power and that potential to really give Otis a rub here. Also, it's a good thing for Corbin to be giving some favours back. He's been in major feuds, he's been winning major matches, so it's important that every now and then he does get humbled a little bit, not just for Otis, but also for Corbin's progression. The match was okay, blow by blow, exactly what you'd expect. Corbin, of course, unlikely to lose a match like this. He goes outside to get his crown, attacks Otis with a chair, and then Otis beats him down and hits the caterpillar. Corbin turns tail and runs, which is more than Roman Reigns was ever able to achieve. Throughout the night, and I'm going to highlight them all here to save time, Miz and Morrison sit in a van and abuse Braun Strowman. Essentially they're just bullying him, which as heels is to be expected. These segments were definitely aimed at a younger audience, which Fox doesn't infamously have. So I'm not sure whether it's the right move, but if the WWE signed up to this deal with the idea that it would bring in more young viewers, segments like this are going to be necessary and you're going to see quite a lot of them. So first Braun Strowman had a protein shake ruined. Then poor Kayla Braxton, got gunged accidentally because they were aiming for Braun. Not sure it was an accident. The Miz has previous with backstage interviewers, let's be honest. And then later on, they took a bat and a club to Braun Strowman's tiny car. Tiny car. Give that man a monster truck. I mean, it's Braun Strowman. Surely he should have a monster truck. This happened in front of established security. Security was shown to be at the door the whole time, right outside next to that car, who apparently did nothing. Question marks there. And finally, this led to the Miz and Morrison sat in the back of that white van while Braun Strowman flipped it over. I enjoyed the flipping over. The rest of it really not for me. Mojo Rawley interrupted a Chad Gable promo to talk about Gronk and make short jokes. I'm getting really sick of the exact same one note with everything going on with Chad Gable. Everything. It's massively excessive, especially when you consider that Chad Gable is probably one of the most talented people on that roster. You put him in a match with Matt Riddle, and you've potentially got the match of the year right there. I'll be upset if they don't at some point do that. Chad Gable laughs it off, walks away, and then gets attacked by Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura. He then gets saved by the New Day, in this instance Big E and Kofi Kingston, because as we know Xavier Woods is still injured. I'm just getting so sick of the exact same jokes. This is a 6-man tag match waiting to happen. Lacey Evans makes her entrance, and leading into the break, Sonya Deville attacks her from behind, another example of a hook designed to drag people in. The match was good, the match was okay. The aggression that both these women are showing is very much worthwhile. I'm liking that because it's an extra bow to the string, as it were. Sonya Deville started the match with her hair down and then tied it up halfway through during a break, which I like. I think that's a gimmick that can definitely get over. And I think both women have what it takes to really get elevated by even just a match like this. Sonya Deville's been doing great, and Lacey Evans, back on TV, has used her time well. Mandy Rose would appear on the big screen, distract Sonya Deville, who would take a woman's right and lose the match. Ends a significant winning streak for Sonya Deville and a good elevation for her, but the push isn't over. The commentary team once again mentioned the Women's Championship quite often, and I think both of these women have really elevated themselves with the 2 matches that they've had and might end up going towards that direction. It's possible we could see a title in this feud at some point soon. A 6-man tag match was announced, surprising everyone. We're going to get Chad Gable and Mojo Rawley in the same SmackDown. WWE, you spoil us. There is a hype package for Matt Riddle as if we needed it. One thing that's been confirmed by these hype packages is that Matt Riddle will both not wear shoes and he will end every sentence with bro. Which is really all we want. Renee Young introduces Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, which is a trio in this ring that brings back real Talking Smack memories. Just let them go. It was such a brief segment in the end, but it was very impactful. I love the feud between AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan because I just think it feels so authentic. The two have great chemistry, and other than like the in-ring skill, they are polar opposites. That's power to have. We know this match is going to be great. They spoke up their intentions with the championship, AJ Styles more likely to defend it sparsely, whereas Daniel Bryan wants to be defending it week in, week out, so that anytime someone tunes in, they know there will be an Intercontinental Championship match. I'm all for that, Daniel. Unfortunately, I don't think you're winning. Something that I did enjoy, while AJ Styles was putting down Daniel Bryan, someone in the crowd shouted, "Don't be rude, AJ!" And all 3 of them had a moment to just check themselves and make sure they didn't start laughing. I liked that. Also, if we're going to have an open challenge, I would love it if the very first week Chad Gable came out, had a match with Daniel Bryan and won the championship. You don't put someone over any more than that. The segment ends with AJ Styles challenging Drew Gulak to a match right there in that very ring. Drew Gulak, Chad Gable and Mojo Rawley in the same SmackDown. You spoil us, WWE. Gulak comes down pretty quickly, and before his music is even finished, he has attacked AJ Styles, leading into the break, once again hot-shotting the break in that attempt to keep viewership. The match was short, roughly 5 minutes, and while technically it was quite impressive, it's unlikely to live long in the memory because of the amount of time taken. It seemed like more of a teaser, which suggests to me that Drew Gulak may be AJ Styles' first challenger for the Intercontinental Championship. I would have no issue with this. Another suggestion that that may be happening would be the fact that Drew Gulak won this match by reversing the Styles Clash into a leverage pin. A really strong pin as well. It's very rare you see a pin that strong, because WWE wrestlers are of course trained to make sure every pin can be kicked out of. The 6-man tag match came next, and with all of the theatrics of Nakamura's theme, I've always felt that it should be a bigger deal when those notes first hit. The New Day come down with Chad Gable to their own music, whereas Nakamura is the music played for Cesaro and Mojo Rawley as well. Really says who WWE consider the stars to be in that particular group. The match is strong from the outset. Gable and Cesaro repeat the powerbomb spot from last week, but this time Gable is able to counter it, which shows that he's learning, and I like little things like that. These two teams, even though it's certainly an out of nowhere grouping, these two teams are actually very well matched. You have two high flyers, two technical masters, and two real powerhouses, which lent to some very good moments in combinations, and in fact the battering ram moments where it was each man against his natural pairing. A strong match. I'd like to see more from these 6, even though I would like to see some mixing up of the groups and maybe some singles matches as well. We have another recap, this time of Styles and Bryan earlier in the night from about half an hour before. I don't think we need those recaps. Finally, for the main event of SmackDown, it was Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross defending the Women's Tag Team Championships against Sasha Banks and the Women's Champion of SmackDown, Bayley. These 4 women have personally, individually, hit such a strong rhythm in the last year or so. Since Sasha Banks returned and was paired up with Bayley, she's just seemed to be so much more comfortable in her role and her positioning and her delivery. Bayley is just fantastic since the heel turn, everything just constantly screaming at Michael Cole. She seems like she's so much more comfortable. In addition, Alexa Bliss, now that she is being permitted to turn face because the WWE stopped trying to keep her a heel, seems to have really hit a stride, and Nikki Cross, who's been pushed sort of as a background push, which I like. I like background pushes because you elevate someone but don't be obnoxious about it. Nikki Cross, since debuting on Raw all those months ago, in a batch of people that were called up and didn't really hit the heights immediately, Nikki Cross has done great things and has been a champion now for a while, which shows the stock they have in her. She's been part of major storylines, and I feel this pairing has been very good for both women. The match was particularly good. All 4 women had key moments. There were some very strong moves as well. There was an elevated tornado DDT from Nikki Cross to Bayley. There was a second rope Bayley to belly. There was a lot of reversals into bank statements and the like. And of course, and this is a rare one, Alexa Bliss hitting the code red. There are now only 3 women who've taken that. This is the 3rd Sasha Banks tonight, all 3 of them horsewomen. It says a lot because it's a real show of faith in the person doing it to you, because they look great and you do most of the work in a code red. I do think any problems between Banks and Bliss are quite far behind them now, and I'm glad for that. The 2 of them have real intense in-ring chemistry, and I feel if you keep pairing these 2 up, we may end up with a strong defining feud, much like back with Triple H and The Rock, for example, or John Cena and Randy Orton, a real defining feud. I feel these 2 women have that sort of chemistry. There were further moments of tension between Bayley and Sasha Banks, particularly when Bayley tagged in and took over a bank statement. It was a logical move, however at the same time it clearly annoyed Sasha Banks. This breakup is definitely coming sooner rather than later. However, there is an added element now, because with a little bit of rolling up, Sasha Banks managed to get the pin and win the championships. The tag team championships are now in the possession of Sasha Banks and Bayley. Bayley is a double champion, which afterwards she went nuts, and it was fantastic because she was there struggling to hold the amount of gold she had. It's also really nice to see the tag team championships back with these 2 women who really pushed hard for their creation and did everything they could for them. Also a nice tidbit, you can see Sasha Banks after the count of 2 leveraging herself to try and get out of the pin. As I mentioned earlier, WWE wrestlers trained to make sure every pin is kick-outable. Sasha Banks clearly lifted up before the 3 and then dropped back down again when she remembered she was winning the match. This week's SmackDown did follow Raw in having a lot of recaps in it. However, there were some very good moments. There was a lot of story beats here, and even though some of the wrestling was a bit lacking, and I don't mean that in low quality, I just mean they were short matches, we did get a lot of very good moments, particularly where Chad Gable was involved, Drew Gulak, and of course the main event. While I do feel things like Corbin and Otis aren't going to hit the heights for a little while, it is building towards something that's very good for Otis, as well as Deville and Evans being a good match. The second hour is definitely where the show kicked in and kicked in hard. This is where we started to really deliver. The 6-man tag was very entertaining but did lack story. Styles Gulak was short but was a very good match with a surprise win. And of course the main event delivered in pretty much every possible way. My Twitter poll for this week had a 42% good rating for SmackDown, and in second place was a 38% great rating. It's a big drop after that to the okay and bad categories. It is a heavy positive. SmackDown has been doing extremely well the last few weeks. Long may it continue. I think this was a good show, hampered slightly by recaps and by short matches. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you very much for watching.